Mike, how's it going?
It's going well. And you? How you doing?
I got the opportunity to go watch some pro women's and men's lacrosse this weekend, and it was really awesome experience, great environment, and very cool too to see the different levels of play between the men's and the women's game as well.
Okay.
Those women were so quick. Hockey style, for anybody that hasn't watched a lacrosse game, like hockey style lineups on and off the field. Yeah. Just incredibly physical and fast. And it was a ton of fun. It was Boston versus Maryland. And really cool too to see some women that are just coming out of the NCAA system that are big names. Great experience. And just as a mom, great for my daughter to be able to watch these women living the dream and signing autographs. Like, so thankful for those women. Like, my daughter came home with a stick with Charlotte North's signature on it and a bunch of other of those players. And so I'm really grateful for them for showing up for that next generation of young athletes, and just a really cool experience.
Yeah, that they do a great job. That's awesome. And just what a moment for the kids. But they do a great job just supporting their fans. And the product is really good. If you haven't been to one of the professional lacrosse league games, like, you should go. If you can make the effort to go, they're really great experiences. The level of play is so great, and really, like, they really do take care of their fans. So good job.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, welcome back to Sideline Ascent. I'm Taryn Sheehan, former Division I coach, professor, mom, and now a huge lacrosse fan.
And I'm Mike Marich, former athletic director, coach, mentor, and someone who believes the people shaping athletes' lives deserve support too.
Sideline Ascent is brought to you by Mindset Curated and Morgan Athletics, two organizations committed to elevating coaches and the athletes they serve. All right, first segment, hot take, trash take. Mike, I get to give you the question this week.
All right, let's go.
Hot take or trash take? Should video review continue as part of sports, or should we go back to no video review?
A little bit of a hot take. I don't think we can go back. Sadly it's in. I would love to go back to where it wasn't. From a fan experience, I think you want the calls right, and I get that, but it also comes at a cost of, from an athlete perspective and from a fan viewing perspective, of interruptions to games. And so unless they can figure out a way to do it really quickly, and then put some really, like, what are we reviewing? We just coming out of the World Cup where they were saying that there's a sensor in the ball that picked up a hair follicle, but not a hit wire. Like, okay, seems a little strange either way, but I just don't think it's going back. But I would like to see it improve so that the pace of play, and the interruptions aren't nearly as much. I mean, thinking about the NBA when they go to video review, and just it's stoppage. So for me, watching it, it's a tough environment. I could only imagine what it's like for players that need to stop and start, right? Like, so I think it's a little bit of a hot take. I don't think it's going away, but maybe we can make it better.
Yeah, I think we've opened Pandora's box, because now it's how do you limit what's reviewable and what's not. I think that's, to the fans, sometimes confusing. What is able to be reviewed and what's you're just continuing on through. So I think that's different and difficult to differentiate those two things. Yeah,
and it also takes the learning moments out of games a little bit, where somebody makes a mistake. And, there's an old saying, ball don't lie when you're on the field, like, right? So
love that saying. So,
by challenging everything, it makes it tough from a lessons perspective. Things don't always go your way.
Yeah.
So there is a life lesson to be had there too. So I just
the human element. I think the human element is what makes sport so great, especially right now. And you can ignore everything going on. Maybe that's outside of sport, but there's a human element that comes into play here. And just like no player is perfect, no play is run the exact way coach draws it up.
Exactly.
Sometimes the refs get it wrong based off the video angle. And I worry about the trickle down to youth where they're like, oh, well, we want the video review. Mom's got it on our computer. It's just
Let's hope it doesn't come down to the high school
It's
level.
a game. I
It's just a
know
game.
people are making millions of dollars at certain levels, but
It's just a game.
it's a game.
Just
Games
a game.
are fun.
Yeah, they are. That's why we're here.
Speaking of games, I'm really excited for our guest today. Really looking forward to our interview because it's someone that I've got a chance to see at some games. So looking forward to today.
Awesome. And welcome back to Sideline Ascent. Today we are joined by Mason Poli. Mason is the head coach of Quinnipiac University's men's lacrosse team. Mason has climbed the ladder at Quinnipiac, starting as assistant coach, then interim head coach, and then was named head coach in May 2019. Mason played collegiately at Bryant University, where he's one of the most decorated long pole defenders in the program's history. After graduating, he was drafted into the MLL, Major League Lacrosse. And in the offseason, Mason coaches the Amity girls' 3rd and 4th grade lacrosse team. Mason, welcome to Sideline Ascent.
Appreciate it, Mike. Excited to be on.
Yeah, welcome. All right, so we'll start with our face-off questions. 3 rapid-fire questions, no right or wrong answers. So, number 1, favorite sports movie of all time?
Probably Miracle.
Okay.
Yeah,
like
Miracle, I'd say. Just like having pride, some nationality there. Not really knowing the story when it first came out as kind of a 90 birth year and not being old enough to hear the stories. It drew my attention. Kind of came out at the right age as well.
There you go. Love that. All right, second one. What would your walkout song be, or did you have one, as a player, or as a coach?
I did not as a player. No, the technology wasn't there yet. Probably something with Avicii. I usually like the EDM. The boys kind of keep me current on the new stuff, but more of a throwback to my time.
I like that.
Is it that old now?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Throwback to my time.
It's a throwback.
Throwback to my time.
A throwback. I love that too. All good. All right. Last one. Last question of the day. What pro athlete's poster would you or did you have hanging on your wall?
I had a life-size cutout of MJ in my room, and my mom would come in to wake me up in the morning, check on me at night, and she would constantly get scared by the thing.
Love it. Awesome. Love those.
So
Good
I know
stuff.
which Space Jam movie you like better than.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's only one Space Jam movie.
That's right. That's right.
Taryn, I'll hand it over to you.
So, Mason, you were one of the most decorated long pole defenders in the country as an athlete at Bryant, and then you went on to play pro lacrosse. So take us back. When did coaching start to feel like something you wanted and not just something that was like naturally, oh, I'm just going to do this right after playing?
I think if you look at my job trajectory through my life, I knew lacrosse was probably going to be involved in some capacity. Worked at a lacrosse store in middle school and high school. Ref games. I started coaching with my little brother. We have an 8-year age gap. So when I was in high school and starting to get into the college realm, I'd go and help him with the local youth team. The club scene was just getting started, so started to help out with his teams. So halfway through my college career, I kind of had an idea that this is a path I might want to go down.
Mm-hmm. Did you, when you were then when you started to figure that out, did you start really thinking about why you were doing things? Did that make you look at game film or the conversations you had with your coach a little bit different? Or did that come after?
Not necessarily. I was always one who enjoyed that part of the process, right? Getting into film. Once I knew I was probably going to go down that path, I dove in a little bit further. In between classes, I'd go to their office and like, hey, I know you guys are cutting film. Can you teach me the program? Ask them about practice plans and like, hey, what are we getting into today? So, and give them a heads up as well. We would do annual meetings with coach and ask us about our career paths, and I told him that coaching was mine. So gave me some advice, especially in the summers, and how to try to get my foot in the door.
Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about that. Like what for somebody that's a player or current player that's interested in that, what did that look like for you? I'd love to hear a little bit of some of that advice as far as how to get your foot in the door and get started.
Yeah, it's the same as everywhere else. It's just a different group of people you're working with, right? So it's getting out and trying to network as much as you can. It helped me. I was working with the club team. So, hey, I was on the sidelines. I'd see the coaches out recruiting. I'd be able to have conversations, stop by like, hey, this is something I'm interested in. Do you have any advice? And hey, just picking their brain, letting them know that in the next couple of years, I might be in their job pool if they have an opening. Worked camps, not as many now as there used to be, but we had 2 weeks of camps. Navy had 2 weeks of overnight camp. So I was able to work those, meet some other guys from all over the place. Some D2, some D3 staffs, some other D1 staffs, or other guys who've had experience at either of those institutions that might be coaching now. So they were great experiences. That and just learning from new people, right? Even I didn't play for those staffs. So, hey, I get to hear how they coach up 4v3s or different parts of the game and help kind of broaden my knowledge of the sport as well.
When you stepped away from playing as a college player and after a few years as a pro, like what was the biggest change that you saw being on the other side of it? I think as a player, we can have our opinions and think we know it all, but it's a lot different when suddenly you are fully in the coach's shoes, even if it's as a volunteer, as an assistant. You see the side of it that you don't see as a player.
Yeah, I think you don't understand what else goes into it, right? There's a large portion of us organizing practice and game material and scout. I think times I underestimate how much time is put into that process. We're just not guessing or throwing things down. There's usually a method to the madness, but I think it's all the other responsibilities too, from an administrative standpoint, a logistical standpoint, and travel, food. The meal just doesn't like randomly show up because they know Quinnipiac's coming to town. And then from the recruiting standpoint, I think the recruiting one was the one that caught me off guard, and not so much the amount of time you're on the road evaluating, but the relationship building process and how many kids you might have to cycle through and filter through to find the right people.
My background before I was a head coach of a high school team was I did recruiting for investment banking, and you just got used to hearing no's a lot, but developing those relationships. I'd love to hear maybe a little bit more about sort of how you go about developing those relationships with the people that you're recruiting.
No, absolutely. I think it's getting an understanding of what their priorities are in this process. If I'm just bashing them over the head of what we have to offer, it might not be not necessarily what they want to hear, but what they want in this experience. And so that's where I start in my process, is asking them questions and hearing what their priorities are. What type of school are you looking for academically, size-wise, location? I want to hear what their priorities are, so somewhat I can script our school and our message to their priorities. But it also, again, gets you to know who they are as a person and what their next steps are, and that you're trying to help, just not we're trying to use you as a lacrosse player.
I mean, you and Mike have already taught me so much that I'm being pulled over into this lacrosse world as actually Mason and I sat out some PLL and WL games with our kids on Friday night. The game's exploding. It's really exciting. So that has also changed the youth development side of things. And not to make this a recruiting podcast, but there's probably a lot more options out there. The NIL, the transfer portal is coming into play. What things have changed for you in the recruiting process, or what are you seeing from a youth development side of things that are different from when you were a player or even when you started coaching?
It's everything's a business now is the big thing from both sides. People are trying to develop businesses, so there are going to be more opportunities for kids to partake in events, specialized teams, clubs, but you're also seeing it now from the parent side too, where it's what's the return on investment that I'm getting. So it's been interesting to track. It's still relatively new, and how you start to see private equity firms step into the space, but I'm also having conversations with people. I think you'll see a new wave here where I think people are very excited right now about all these opportunities. And then once these kids that have lived through these opportunities have kids themselves, they'll second guess what they're getting out of that experience. And you might see, I think, a new wave of youth sports here in the next 10, 15 years.
As you guys know, in Nashville, the market down here lacrosse market is relatively, I would say, immature compared to being in the Northeast. Rec leagues, hearing a lot of talk about rec leagues, the bringing rec leagues back just to get students interested in the game without the pressure of traveling all over the country. And I think that's great for the development of our sport, but also development of young student athletes. To be able to see that and join a sport in a non-pressure environment. We all know the beauty of travel. I wouldn't give up what I did with my own son and daughter, like the travel trips and that type of stuff. But there is something nice about just picking up a game and enjoying the love of the game as well.
You're right. I think there just needs to be a balance. We're we're getting to the end of the summer here, but you're starting to see kids for the eighth week in a row. Sometimes they're filming events, and it's a different product that they're putting out in the field from the beginning of June till now. And if people were a little more selective, if there was some training in the middle, right now the kid hasn't really gotten better. I'm just seeing a more fatigued product of the kid where, hey, let's work in some practices or some trainings or get to a developmental. So rather than spending $5,000 in that summer for just club events, all right, maybe half of that goes to club and the other half I do my homework and find something where my son or daughter can develop.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's, or just like you said, the local rec league. I think when athletes can take ownership themselves and want to get better on their own, but also like find ways to get creative and just have fun with the sport, that's when they take the biggest strides.
It all comes down to fear, right? We've totally sold parents on the fear that they're going to be behind. Mason's wife and I are on a lacrosse moms thread with our kids, and everyone's trying to figure out what the under 10 kids are we playing travel this summer? And it's sometimes I feel like I'm the crazy one of thinking like, we need to work on some ground balls first. Like we need to catch, we need some skills before I'm spending $3,000 on just, club fees. Like what are we doing?
This is where I laugh. Like you said, lacrosse is a booming sport. There weren't as many opportunities, and still, depending on where you live, the opportunities don't come as early. My daughter just finished her 3rd year of rec lacrosse. I didn't pick up a stick for the first time until 3rd grade. So,
didn't Charlotte North just say that she didn't start playing till middle school, like 7th and 8th grade? I just saw that in an interview.
Right. You never know what the process is. I don't need to be the best now. At this point, I'm happy she's excited to play lacrosse and excited to go in the backyard and excited to show up to practice. And I don't need to burn that out.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, we had this, my wife and I had a very similar conversation with our son during the recruiting process. And, we said, listen, if you want to play, we'll support you. If you want to play in college, we're going to support that. But we've put you into a travel team for socialization and just to get better, right? Like we want you to make friends, have a good time and get better. And the journey's yours, but no pressure on our end of what level you end up playing. So it took so much pressure off of our family when we didn't personalize it, when it didn't become this personal, my identity wasn't wrapped in how my child was, what their athletic career was developing. It was more of, is he a good person that likes to play and is having a fun time doing it, right? So I don't want to get all preachy to people, but that's the way we approached it and it worked really well. Mason, we spoke a little bit about your sort of origin story in coaching and how you knew at an earlier age that you thought this might be the path. You were Quinnipiac's defensive coordinator before getting the interim job, and then obviously the head coach now. Talk to us a little bit about the progression and what did you need to do to prepare yourself for each step on that ladder? Because each jump is big.
No, it is. I think, and luckily I had great coaches to learn from along the way. Playing for Coach Pressler at Bryant. My first year in coaching, I spent down at the University of Richmond, their inaugural season, and to see what they've done with that program.
Right.
And the time being. So the big one is the preparedness, right? You've got to step in the room and have all the answers and have the answers to questions you might not even think are possible, right? And then that's where the boys get that trust, they get their understanding. You got to be able to communicate and sell that big picture. I think you're constantly a salesman, whether it's me walking around a recruit on campus, or I'm trying to sell to the team a style of play or sell our team on the next opponent or game. You kind of have to be that motivator to be able to get that buy-in, to really be able to evaluate what you're doing. If you can play lacrosse a million different ways, right? There are a million different offenses you can attack with, and you have to be able to evaluate what am I doing? If what I'm doing is correct, or are we not executing it properly, right? So I think if you're able to sell that and get that execution out, it's easier to make those adjustments in what you're doing.
How did you sell that you were ready for that role to your administration? I think It can be very tricky to, as the assistant, you have a role of your job is to assist the head coach, right? Your job as an assistant is to make your boss look good. So when the situation occurs that the head coach is no longer there, how do you assert yourself? And sometimes that's when table manners can come out amongst assistant coaches too, over, everyone's looking for that opportunity to get ahead, to get a bump, to get promoted. So is there anything you felt like you did in the process to help make that transition better, to show that, I've never been a head coach before, but I'm ready to take this step moving forward now?
No, and I think it's not necessarily when the process opened up or when they made changes. It wasn't anything in that moment. It was kind of just like having my color show the whole time, being able to, over the past the 4 years prior, show I worked in a professional manner. I had great relationships around the office. They saw how I interacted with the players and how I developed those relationships. So it wasn't anything like, hey, this is an opportunity. Like, I struck gold. It was the way I was able to demonstrate my beliefs and my abilities the previous 4 years, I thought.
Give me more details on the professional, how you handled yourself in a professional manner in the office. I think that is something that maybe we don't talk about enough in coach development. How you behave as an athlete is a lot different. And in an athletic setting, it's a little bit more loose, right? We're wearing sweats into the office. We don't need to wear a suit and tie. So it can be a nice transition from that player to coach mode, but there needs to be, and there should be, a level of professionalism in there. Is there anything that when you made that shift and were in that role, you made a point of, this is the behavior, these are the habits that I have to have showing up in that professional manner?
No, I think it's one, being present, right? Being around the office. It's not just showing up for practice and then disappearing home, right? Luckily, I have a great administration, and they support all our family endeavors. So if there's an afternoon I need to pick up my daughter early or help out with the doctor's appointment, I have that flexibility. But otherwise, I love being in the office. I spend my time there. It's the manner of how you get your work done when you run into any problems or you foresee any challenges. It's being able to communicate with your administration and working with them to find a solution rather than just getting mad. Why can't I do certain things?
Right.
It's, I think it's no different than going into an interview with any other job, right? Half of that interview, you're trying to learn, do they have the qualifications to do this job? Can they get the job done? And the other half is, can I hang out in the office with them for a day, right? And are they not tolerable, but do I enjoy spending time with them? Yeah. And so I think that fortunately I was able to showcase a lot of those things.
Yeah, I heard you talk a little bit about being proactive, sort of that managing up of what business term, managing up, like where nobody likes surprises on their desk, especially the administration, right? So being able to give somebody a heads up on some things, and then also the proposed solution always puts people in a good light. The communication, and then the other thing that I remember coming back from when I got into investment banking was, be prepared for the next job and just soak it all in, right? Take as much as you can from those people around you, and then showcase and put out signals that you're ready for that next opportunity. And when you hear that knock, open the door and walk through it.
You never know when the opportunity is going to come, so you can't always have that carrot at the end of the stick. And it's something that is definitely a challenge with the new generation, new athletes coming in, having that focus on the long-term goals and objectives. They want so much immediacy in a similar role. Like you never know when that opportunity is going to come. I just can't see that reward in the week or, again, in the short term. Got to be who you are all the time.
Was there a moment that you were like, oh, this is a lot harder than maybe I thought? Or did you feel that you had taken in all the resources that you needed and you were really, really prepared? That
first year was like a blink a little bit. We were short-staffed, so I was fortunately elevated, and it was me and the offensive coordinator at the time. So I was kind of doing double duty as DC, the defensive coordinator and head coach. It was in the middle of the season, so we didn't really have much time to think. It was just, what can I do now to get the boys prepared for a month and a half in our start? I think the biggest surprise has always been at times you're more of a psychologist than a coach, right? It's managing and massaging personalities, and especially with a team-related sport where you need all those personalities to be on at the same time, but then coincide with each other.
Yeah. Reading the room, that EQ, so important. Yes. And knowing that each player is going to come at it from a different point of view, their point of view. So
absolutely. And you got to learn your players. Some guys, it might be like just a fist bump and stretch, and that they're good with that. Other guys might need a longer conversation, might come into the office. So it's learning your players and finding that time.
I know your team actually has a really great reputation. What have you done as the leader of that program to really build that reputation of their upstanding students?
It starts with recruiting. Well, I've got to find great lacrosse players, but I think just as importantly, great people too. So we do our time, we do our due diligence in making sure that we're bringing the right people into this family, because at times we are individuals, but at other times we're kind of a sum of the whole. So everybody's got to make sure they're doing their job. Through that recruiting process, I love bringing in guys that are strong academic students. That work ethic carries over from the classroom onto the field, and it helps us build a culture of doing more and striving to get better, right? A lot of our practice time, we spend some time working on the individual and working on our individual skill sets, but a majority of the time is focused on that team picture and making sure all those pieces are moving together. So getting guys that are willing to work on their own outside of the team and work on their individual gains. I think with that, guys are good influences on each other with their time as well, rather than spending the 2 hours in between class on video games. Hey, let's go to the library and get some study hall done. Mm-hmm. And luckily, again, very happy. Great families. They learn from great people, great parents. Been fortunate to bring them in, and it's been fun.
How does that play in when you are recruiting a student athlete in your approach? Like, you said due diligence. What work did you have to do for you in the program to establish sort of the values and your own coaching philosophies?
No, I think it's one, the boys notice how you handle business. There's no job that's too small for me, right? Whether it's picking up balls at the end of practice, I'm out there with them. It's another opportunity for me to have conversations with them. When we're going on the road for an away trip, I'm helping the rest of the staff gather all of our goods and equipment. And then with the conversations and kind of the stories you reinforce in the locker room as well. You're constantly hearing about other programs, other colleges and athletic department news. So when the story comes up, you have to make the boys aware. And it might not even be a program that they're aware of. I don't want to single any schools out, but be someone in like Texas or Arizona, a school that they're not aware of, a program they don't follow, but it's still national news. So having those conversations, giving them those reminders, and unfortunately reinforcing it at times. If
part of being the head coach and being the boss in the shoes is you're not only just now in charge and tasked of mentoring your student athletes, but also mentoring a staff. Talk to us a little bit about how that shift's been for you. Now, all the athletes are your problem, but sometimes so are your assistant coaches' struggles, and their problems are also on your plate too. So how do you balance that? How have you gotten better at mentoring, and what things do you now know you need to look for when you're hiring a new staff and so when they move on?
No, absolutely. That's probably been the one challenge I didn't expect when I first got the role. Again, we were short-staffed. I brought in that following season, and we had a full staff, and I was like, oh, this is my staff for my coaching career. and those guys, unfortunately, have gotten out of coaching. I both had personal connections to them as well. One was a former teammate of mine. One grew up in the same area. So thought we all had the same goals and desires about bringing Quinnipiac to the same level. And then they were ready to take some personal steps, and the career wasn't ready to keep up with them. So they're doing well. But I think the one piece I underestimated in going through the process is kind of the personality. I think the first round through, it was a lot of X's and O's, and hey, do they know what they're talking about? And realizing like, all right, I can coach that up a little bit, but what is the personality? How are they going to motivate their side of the ball? How are they going to interact with their players? How are they going to, as I said earlier, sell their style of lacrosse and be able to educate their players? It was something that I've more recently put a little more emphasis into as I've gone through those searches. But then, I guess it was weird. I was so young when I first took over. I didn't really have a lot of personal experiences.
Yeah.
But now that there's a little bit more of an age gap with me and the staff, there's some other more like life experiences. Beforehand, I felt like I was in the same shoes, where now I can bring a little more experience and help them along.
Yeah, because the challenge too is sometimes in your position is you're hiring people that have really never maybe even coached before, or they are stepping from that newly, rule from being a player and getting into that coaching shoe, they're still learning about like, well, what is my coaching philosophy? What even is that? Yeah, I know the game, but what does that mean to communicate what I'm trying to get across to the players on the field when each one of them has a different learning style? They come from a different background. The coach in that role communicated in a different way. I think it's constantly evolving and changing, and the assistant staff position sometimes can change hands, frequently, depending on, I think very rare is it to see staffs that are together 18 years.
Especially in our world where a lot of the up and coming guys are a little bit younger, might not have the same experience at the same level. So like you said, if you know certain things that you're looking for, I've got to coach them up to they're not finished products as well.
Mason, I think I read that you had said punctuality and attention to detail were what turned the program around early. I'd love to hear a little bit more of that if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, no, we start with our emphasis and our code of conduct with everything off the field. As I kind of mentioned earlier, with that kind of focus on recruiting, we need to take care of our business off the field. We want to have a strong reputation around campus. But if we check those boxes first, I know I'm going to set my boys up for personal and professional successes well beyond their time. And a lot of those factors are going to carry over onto the field too. How we run an offense, how we pick up a ground ball, how we want to be seen and noticed in our style of play, where whether Mike, you come and watch our game, or Taryn, who has little lacrosse, like hopefully you're both walking away from that experience with like similar things to say, right? They're organized. Everybody knew what they were supposed to do. They bust their butt and they compete. So it's been fun. To continue each year, you've got a different wave of athletes, and we're getting into a point now where it's carrying over, and it almost comes out of the seniors and upperclassmen's mouth before it needs to come out of mine.
Yeah, that I was just going to say, has there been a carryover with the seniors and the upperclassmen? But so that's awesome.
We took some lumps. We 3 years ago now, we had the Donnery twins, and then a large group of seniors in the COVID fifth year group. And we had a challenge of turning over such a large group of producers. We graduated 95% of our points, and we handed the keys over to like a lot of freshmen and sophomores. So they had heard the message. They understood it the year before, but not having like applied and gone through some rough patches, they didn't carry those lessons with the same weight on their sleeve. So it's been fun now to kind of go through this evolution again. With a similar group. Now these guys are starting to be upperclassmen, some juniors, some seniors, some fifth year guys. So it's always an evolving process. When you think you've gotten to a point as a coach, like it's going to recycle, reshake, you're going to be reminded very quickly. So it's a constant evolution.
Do you guys have a leadership hierarchy that you've set up that way? You can't always control it, especially coming out of COVID. A lot of us as coaches had to reset, but do you have anything set up, whether it's like captains on your team or a leadership group that meets to establish rules and talk about that culture every year? Or is it something that you've been there so long that everyone knows what the expectations are and it just kind of carries down from the seniors to the first years?
Yeah, they know what the expectations are. We kind of do leadership by Darwinism. So at this point, it's open seas. I don't want to appoint guys. They have the opportunity to earn that right? So they're in conversations. They have lifting groups. They're in contact, reaching out, welcoming all our new incomers. As we come into the fall, we'll give guys in that senior group, fifth year, seniors, some juniors, different opportunities throughout practice or in how we prepare to lead, organize the group and kind of, all right, let's see what cream rises at the top. Who's ready to, one, because I think a lot of the kids, like, you might assign them, but are they willing to accept that role? So
right.
It's not for the boys to take that ownership. And this is something I want. I know it's going to be probably have 8 to 10 guys who are willing, we're, I know, going to try to earn that spot. Mm-hmm. Something we started last year too, is we actually have them do not a debate, but like a town hall. Everybody gets a minute and a half to explain to the team why they should be a captain, because you got to be able to vocalize your needs, the team's needs, in both ways, right? Whether it's stepping up in front of the team and whether it's reiterating something the coaching staff wants done, or the reverse way where, hey, they're taking the team's needs and coming to my office and having a conversation with me, something that they've got to be comfortable with. So putting it to practical use. And what you see is you get a lot of juniors who probably won't get votes that year, but it's great experience for them that following year to get that. And something else we've done this past year, to start every practice, we draw the drill on the board, but the boys go out and operate it on their own. So they've got 3 minutes to set up the field, balls, cages, cones, and then there's 8 minutes on the clock there where they get the drill up and operational, where it's not coach, you're not doing it because coach is telling you, like, you guys are getting this organized, you're working together to figure out the structure, and then the drill's going. Occasionally we have to pop out and might clean up a thing or two, but like we're able to come out and see their intent. And all right, or are they trying to get this done the correct way? And hey, are they ready to take ownership of practice there? Are they just going to wait around for me to tell them what to do?
I hate to use the word this generation, but I think so different than the way I was coached growing up. I can remember just sitting in the gym for basketball and coach drowning on about like what this play is, what this defense is, and just like zoning out about like, I wish I was like doing something else versus putting them in that ownership position of making them coach each other through it. They absorb it so much better that way because now they've got to work through what's going to work and what doesn't work, that it's really cool to sit back as a coach and let them figure that out. It's so much more effective than us standing there being like, oh, this is how we're going to do it. But it takes some trust there.
If you turn them into robots, I'll turn them into robots. Like, right. I'm not going to do it until you tell me to. And if I do it and it's wrong, I'm turning and blaming you. So It's like, this is a process we both have to evolve and learn from. So, and we love it. As soon as we put them in that position, they carry a lot of that through the rest of practice rather than just getting out there standing around like, all right, are we doing stretch yet? What am I doing until stretch? It's like, you know what you're doing, get out there and start it on your own.
Right, because the game is never going to go the way you draw it up. Like I always say, I can give you 100 different ways this can go, and 102 and 103 is going to happen. So they've got to be able to make those adjustments on the fly because the plays don't always work perfectly. If you can't improvise, if you can't just have that flow of the game, you're going to struggle when you have any sense of diversity that pops up.
Yeah. And I think that's where free play comes in whatever sport you're coaching, so that they can develop there. So I think, Mason, what you're saying with the practice sounds like you're developing the next generation of coaches up there, which is going to be awesome to see. Your coaching tree is going to be incredible. But then also like that accountability to the group, but also to you guys as coaches, which is incredible. And Tara, to your point, when it comes to that, I've seen it a lot where kids have gotten more coaching now. I say this a lot. Kids have gotten more coaching by the age of like 6th grade than I had until I was in college, right? Yeah. Like in one weekend, they probably get more coaching than I did all the way through. And I had some really good people that cared for me. But by showing everybody and going to all these structured things, that notion of free play loses out a little bit too. So that's where that robot syndrome comes in.
Do you feel like these guys are coming in with the same actually IQ of the game? Because I'm hearing some college coaches saying that we've actually got to teach them IQ because some of these kids have actually never sat down and watched a game film. All they're doing is playing tournaments, but they don't actually understand execution and theory and strategy.
Their individual skill set is much better. What they aren't coached is one to apply certain situations to certain portions of the game. Yeah. I already see with my daughter. I'm not blaming my wife. I do it too. I taught her behind the back. Jess taught her like a little backhand shovel shot. And for her, she was so excited. She learned this new move, but it was the only thing she wanted to do. And she kept rolling back into like 3 defenders. And it's like, no, just shoot it with your strong hand. But she was like, look what I learned. Look what I showed you. I'm applying this. And so and that's where even some of like the skill-based training, it might be like a flaw. Like, hey, all right, your shot's so much better. You have so much more range now, but is that athlete just want to prove that all game and he's shooting shots from 15 the whole time? And that might not be what the situation calls for. So it's a back and forth, and there needs to be some of that instruction for the individual to get better. But the free flow, I think, is phenomenal. There's so much to be able to work through not having refs and what was a call and did your friend check you too hard?
No blood, no foul.
Right. Yeah. There's so much they've got to work through and not just like turn to coach and what's coach telling me to do.
I think when I started teaching the class coaching methods, that was something really eye-opening to me, the difference between tactical skills practice and game theory practice. And knowing when to implement both, you have to have those skills first, just the basic skills of the game, the sport you're playing. But there's times of just doing the same movement over and over doesn't work in a game. So you have to be able to transition that to what is going to happen in a game, what are the different situations, and being able to apply those skills when the situation calls for it.
Yeah. When I was at Gunn, our assistant was Connor Mooney, and he said, "Hey, on Thursdays, can we play 3x? You might like this. So it's just 3-on-3 pickup, basically." And then we use that as our warm up. And what I noticed, I hat tip to Connor, it compounded our touches. It allowed our boys to be free and play and we put a timer on it. It was like 10 minutes, but that was our warm up. But it also gave game situations and playing different positions. And it was just, for us, it really expanded our program and what we were able to do really quickly. But I give him credit because I never thought about it. So using your assistant coaches and their philosophies and being a head coach for me was one of those things where I was like, yes, you know what you're doing. Tell me what else we should be doing. But that free play was so important to our program.
Well, I think like anything else, it's a great point is be able to listen to your assistants. I think if I'm only doing things my way, we're probably going to be somewhat narrow-sighted to be able to take from their experiences. I think it helps them bring in motivation to the office, right? They're heard. We're applying something that they're bringing to the table. And that's what I love. There's a million ways to do a 4v3, but you can apply 10,000 different constraints, whether it's the size of the cage, the area, the field, how long they can hold the ball, what sticks they have. But each one's a different challenge that they've got to figure out how to adapt and attack. And again, how can I compete to try to win this?
As a coach, you do this long enough, you have some down season. So how do you rebuild that belief in the locker room when you maybe have a young team and they're struggling and the season and this one scoreboard's not looking like the way you want it to? How do you make sure that they see that other scoreboard of the process and having the belief of like, we just got to keep putting the work and it's going to pay off when the time's right?
Absolutely. I think again, the boys are constantly reading you and your mood, your tone, what you're communicating. So again, always being true, always having their back. I think using a lot of we instead of you communication shows that, hey, I'm in your corner. We're doing this together. But then also finding those areas, like you said, where something we can hang our hat on and finding areas of the process, whether it's something in taking pride in something in the way you do something in practice. For us, it's a lot of, as you said, the process. So finding in the game film, like a lot of positives rather than harping on the negatives. What positives can we take and build on? And sometimes we might do the negatives individually, or if there's a certain player, like, hey, who's trending a certain way, like we can have this conversation on their own, finding ways to celebrate things. This past year, we had some rough start, kind of a maturing team. Halfway through the year, we just started rewarding energy. So during like West Genesee, a continuous 4v3 drill, it wasn't conditioning based off of who lost the game. It was conditioning based off of who was quieter for that 10 minutes. And we just wanted guys to bring energy and excitement. And it was something small, but you could see how the energy was contagious and how it reflected on the scoreboard. So finding different things to emphasize through those times. Whenever something's going wrong, I'm trying to evaluate what happened on the field and what I might need to correct from the player, but what also can I correct from myself? Whether it's, did I introduce this drill? Did I set this drill up for the intent that I was expecting? Do I need to, again, teach it in a different method? I might have only covered it on the whiteboard when we walked out there, but somebody needs to see it in film and see how it operates. So I'm always trying to adjust how I do things as well to get different results, and not just, if I keep bashing and sticking true to this, it'll eventually work. Like, all right, how can I adjust it to try to get the same results?
You do such an incredible job of kind of keeping your emotions sort of neutral. You never get super high or low. And I think that really helps confidence in players, having seen other coaches, with a coaching lens and then seeing how other coaches interact with their players. You do a really good job of not seeming to get too high or low or too excited. And sometimes when we let our emotions show too much as a coach, sometimes I'm definitely guilty of this. Our players can feed off of that one way or another. So,
and it might not even be like ref makes a bad call and you're losing your emotions on the ref, but the players see that and now their emotions and their blood pressure is here.
Right.
So I always compare it to, and I think a big shift in my coaching career came to with having Hadley, my daughter. And just having that perspective, having somebody to go home and at times like just forget about a game, whether it was winning and being excited or losing, she'd come home and she wouldn't care. So it was just like, can you get on the floor and play box with me or come color?
Right. I mean, it does make you a better coach some days is having that perspective.
But the one thing I took was when she was like 1, just learning how to walk. When they take a spill, their first look is at you. And if you panic, they panic. Yeah. If you tell them they're fine, stand up, like there's nothing wrong with it. And your players are no different, right? You get scored on, they look at you and, hey, you're either confident and you're teaching them, hey, this is what we need to do. We got it next time, and they're ready to go. Or if you're freaking out, something's going on in their nervous system, right? Yeah. So you can control them with your mood and emotion. You're the tone setter in the room.
Right. I keep thinking about lately with the middle school team I'm coaching with is every time I blow the whistle, what is that association? Am I blowing the whistle every time they make a mistake? Or also am I blowing the whistle when they do something really good too? They have to have both sides of that. It can't just only be the feedback they're getting. The only time I blow the whistle is when someone's messed up and we need to correct it. They've got to know the good that's in there, if not more than where we need to correct things.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that I've been working on with some of the middle schoolers is asking them about decisions, but also what did they see in that moment? Or if, let's just say they're throwing a pass and it doesn't connect. Like, what did they feel in their body? Like where, and really making it more in a question rather than, hey, you didn't keep your shoulder up. Your elbow was dropping and that's why the pass sailed, right? Like, and it's been revolutionary for me to be getting that feedback to them in a way that I never had, which was film sessions were terrible to go to because you were exposed. And again, I had great coaches, but you didn't want to walk in film, and it was done out of love. But it's something I think that's really helpful for all coaches to remember. Like, there is somebody that's getting this feedback. And until you've built that relationship with your players, how do they want feedback? How do they like feedback? Like you had mentioned, Mason, do you correct somebody on the side when they're going through a rough patch? Like that's awesome because it shows your care and your connection with the players that you're teaching. Because that's all it is. It's just teaching. So kudos to you on that. That's pretty awesome.
I appreciate it. And I don't want to come off like a saint. Like I definitely have my moments.
We all do.
You have like your 4th or 5th time or you're giving somebody the same reminder and make it a little animated, a little loud.
Yeah.
But then afterwards, it's like after practice, you pull them aside.
You got
what's going on? What's your process here? What's the reason? And it might be something at home. And it's like, I'm sorry for having this earlier. I'm happy you shared this with me. What can I do now?
Yeah.
How can we try to avoid the same scenario from happening tomorrow?
Understanding your athlete's mental health is a huge part of this, right? They might have things going on at home or they're struggling in school. Like, so much happens in an athlete's life when they're in college, big life events. And as a coach of a program, you are in the first lines of seeing that. What are some things that you're able to do or you've done and changed throughout your coaching journey to help your athletes and create an environment where they're able to put their mental health first?
No, I think it's lowering the stigma and making it, none of these resources that we have are punishment. They're all to benefit you. Whether it's an academic advisor or sports psychologist or athletic trainer, they're here to help you reach your goals and make you the best version of yourself. So if a guy's missing out on study hall, I don't bash him. It's unfortunately you made your job harder and you got to make up some hours this coming week. But let's get it done and trying to, again, help them find the big picture in it all. In this process, lacrosse is probably the smallest piece of this experience. It's making sure that they are setting themselves up professionally and figuring themselves out socially and how to manage that aspect. If we don't have one of those 2 things down, lacrosse is going to take a back seat for a little bit. We'll get those other 2 figured out, and then we can reintroduce lacrosse. They understand it's to make them the most productive and best versions of themselves.
We heard a lot about coaches and the demands of the job, the other 90% of the job, that type of stuff. How do you stay? You just came off of the summer season, the summer circuit. How do you refill your cup to make sure that you're operating at the best version of yourself?
No, you just have to find the time for yourself and all the madness. So the month and a half on the road. I'm fortunate that some of the areas I'm traveling to, I've got family, so able to stay with my parents, stay with some aunts and uncles. A lot of my former college teammates are either in those areas or in the club scene now, which is starting to get scary. Luckily, I haven't gotten any recruiting emails from their kids yet, but just taking the time, like, all right, I don't need to, I'll stay an extra hour after an event to go grab dinner with a buddy rather than getting on the road right away.
Yeah.
When I'm at home, I'm making sure that I'm spending time with my wife and daughter. This is definitely the next few weeks here before the students return are a nice way to refill a lot of those cups. Hopefully get out and play around the golf here and there, but
nice.
Just kind of reminding another round in.
Right. Oh yeah. But just reminding myself like why I'm in it. Right. I love the sport. I've been able to make a profession, a career out of it. To really see now my daughter like get an understanding of what I do, and to see her like get interest and that competitive gene come out of her. It's cool to see both sides of it. And definitely, not that I was losing it, but definitely gave me like a different burst of energy and passion about the whole thing this past few springs with getting her involved.
Yeah.
Sure. That and being with little girls is a nice change of pace too, from 18 to 22-year-old men.
Fun story. The girls had they've done a lot of learning, and the one game, they had a nice little win against our competitors down the road, and they doused and chased Mason across the field with their water bottles, which is just, seeing Mason get chased by a horde of little girls was awesome. And just, it's great to see, coaches. I think that's what the mark of a good coach is, not just coaching elite players. You get to the Division I level, you're coaching really good athletes. They're already really good. And yes, you have to develop them, but can you coach the sport from the fundamentals? And Mason's doing a great job of that. I can see that firsthand in my house. I think every coach should have to work on the youth level to really get those principles and foundation of how do you really teach the most basic parts of the game, because that's just as important. And if you can do that and create that excitement and love from a group of 8, 9-year-old girls, and doing it with some college kids, I think is not easy, but it hits a little differently.
Don't completely thank me yet. They're definitely getting corrupted. There's still quite a few rules on the women's side. I need to learn shooting space, the arc. So we'll be physical in a couple of years.
Coaching is coaching at the end of the day, the X's and O's and but it's how do you develop the kids are genuinely excited to get in the car and go to practice, and, seeing my kid put her headphones on and go hit on the bounce back in her backyard because coach told her to. That's awesome, because they have to develop. And how are you motivating that internal motivation? It can't be because I want her to do it. None of your players, can't be because coach said it. It has to, be inspired sometimes. And there has to be that intrinsic motivation more than anything else. Mason, moving on to our last segment of the show, we call it the last lap, the bell lap. Another round of quick rapid fire questions in response to your coaching journey. What mindset are you actively working on right now?
That's a good question. This sounds weird, but I'd say delegation. And not that I'm trying to pass off work, but again, to develop my staff, to get them in a position to feel like they're comfortable to take over a program someday. I think continuing to work on those skill sets.
What habit has genuinely made you a better coach on the sideline or in the chair?
Ask questions, whether it's your players on the field, like you had said, Mike, earlier, like, hey, what are you seeing out there? Well, what are you guys thinking about this new set? I'll even ask them, like, I'll throw out a new drill. Like, hey, what'd you think of the new drill today? Same thing on the road. In the summers, I love getting out in the recruiting scene to sit with other coaches and, hey, what did you pick up this year? What new trends are you doing? Any new drills that you got? And again, it just makes you think about things. It might be the same thing, but think about it a different way, explain it a different way, or a different tweak that you might not have thought of. So you're always learning when you ask questions.
Yeah. What advice would you give a first-year coach that nobody gave you?
It's going to sound funny, but just say it with your chest. All right. Again, the room reads at all times, so you just have to have confidence at all points. Right. You say it with confidence that you believe in yourself, and they'll follow you. Right. If you have that tone and that presence. I've got a big pile of reads I need to get to. I'm trying to think of one I've gotten to recently. This is an interesting one. Art of War.
Mm-hmm.
Art of War. just to make you think of different perspectives, right? If, as I had mentioned earlier, like you're trying to figure out what the trends are, but you can't always be a follower. So to define different advantages, different points of leverage, how can I maybe zig instead of zag? Just kind of take like a bigger picture approach to things and see what kind of ripple effect might take place.
Yeah. Last question. If you could change one thing about the coaching as a profession, not your team, the whole profession, what would it be?
They get out of the winter. We're a winter sport. I think we'll be making some changes to the calendar soon, but if we can get some more sunshine and sunscreen, I'd be a massive fan.
I love that. Yep. Mason, thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your journey, for sharing your philosophies, and there's so many tidbits and nuggets for our listeners. And thanks for all you're doing.
No, really appreciate you guys having me on, and best of luck to you as well in this endeavor.
Thanks.
Thanks for joining us on Sideline Ascent.
Be sure to like and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts on Spotify or Apple Music so you never miss an episode.
Stay connected with us on YouTube and Instagram. We love hearing what messages resonated with you or who you'd like to hear from next.
This conversation hit home for you. Share it with somebody who appreciates it, a friend, a teammate, or a coach.